also watching this, protests breaking out in Tennessee over another redistricting battle as the state legislature there approved a new map eliminating the state's sole Democratic district. Fox News contributors Ben Domenech and Mary Katharine Ham join me now to talk about all of this. This is the battle of 2026, the battle royale, you could call it. Ben, I'll come to you first because this Virginia decision is a major blow for Democrats. They spend a ton of money on this.
It's a stunning result. And I mean, the quotes that were running in Axios from Democrat staffers yesterday are not suitable for our air. So
a lot of curse words?
Yes, a lot of people were needing to drown their sorrows in Washington last night. And that's because national Democrats really weighed in on this in a huge way. They spent, almost $70 million. It actually could be more than that when you actually get the final statistics to come out at the end with this result, which again was very narrow. It was a 4-3 decision, but on the facts, there were always these questions. There had been recommendations from former Attorney General Jason Miyares, who you just saw on air, former Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli, that this process was one that sought to subvert the whole requirements of the Virginia Constitution. Turned out the Supreme Court agreed with them after all of this money spent. They effectively lit a massive amount of money on fire in the midterms to achieve nothing.
MK, you called it. I mean, you were warning people on Twitter that this doesn't seem legal.
Well, I was by no means sure of what the court would do, but I didn't think they should be so sure that they were in the clear here. And they say they're exploring every legal pathway now. They should have explored legal pathways before it, and
right.
before they did it illegally. And one thing I want to clear up too, because a lot of people are complaining, why did the Supreme Court of Virginia decide after the vote? Well, it takes 2 minutes of listening to the oral arguments to hear Democratic lawyers say, we're so glad that you let the vote go through. And now that the vote has gone through, they thought that they were going to get sort of extra credit for that. And the Virginia Supreme Court was like, you asked us to wait, and now we will weigh on these issues.
I just want to put up on the screen, this is what we found as far as how much Democrats spent on all of this redistricting efforts in Virginia. $53 million. There's numbers out there upwards of higher than that, maybe even closer to $100 million. This is what we found, at least from the Virginias for fair election spending. I do want to ask you, Ben, very quickly about what's happening in Tennessee. Republicans changing that state's maps. A lot of protests broke out. I wonder, though, if they're also risking a decision like this.
Well, I think that they could run into a similar situation here, especially because, look, one of the things that we've seen in terms of these redistricting map playouts, in terms of the way that they've been proceeding across the country, is that this is just a basic partisan thing. I know people hate gerrymandering, but it's always going to be with us. And it's going to be something where people are trying to get a leg up on each other. Democrats this cycle thought that they should lean into it because it would give them an advantage going into the midterms. A lot of them right now, though, are looking at this scenario, especially combined with the Supreme Court's own decision regarding the VRA, and saying, did we make a mistake? Did we make a miscalculation here? And are we now going to have to effectively run the table with all of our swing districts in order to take back the House, which is an astonishing place to be given the historical trends?
Okay.
I would say, yeah, each state has their own rules, and each state will face some legal challenges. Florida has a similar situation where there are rules. But I would say my money's on Ron DeSantis getting the legal parts right versus Louise Lucas every day.
Maybe just thinking this through a little bit more methodically here. This is the president on Truth Social just reacting, saying it was a huge win for the Republican Party and America in Virginia. The Virginia Supreme Court has struck down the Democrats' horrible gerrymander, Make America Great Again. I want to ask you about someone who's been becoming a big voice in the Democratic Party, and that, of course, is AOC, a progressive voice. She's a prolific fundraiser, but she doesn't like people who make a ton of money. And this is what she recently said. It raised a lot of eyebrows. Watch.
You can't earn $1 billion.
That's right.
You just can't earn that.
That's exactly correct.
You can get market power. You can break rules. You can do all sorts of things. You can abuse labor laws.
Yep.
You can pay people less than what they're worth.
Yep.
But you can't earn that, right?
Let me read to you what the Washington Post editorial board wrote here. This is an op-ed. To say that it's impossible to legitimately earn $1 billion is to put an arbitrary limit on human potential. And presuming that anyone who becomes too successful must be cheating shows a lack of imagination as to what humans are capable of accomplishing in a free society. Ben, What is going on with this party? I mean, every week we talk about something else they're doing where it clearly shows they're going way to the left here.
Have you seen the old pictures of Elon Musk and of Jeff Bezos when they were starting with their ideas?
In their garages?
In their garages. Selling books on the internet. What a ridiculous thing to come up with, you know, and now he owns the Washington Post. So look, I think this is absurd, but I do find it interesting that AOC is leaning into this so much at a particular moment when the billionaire class is lining up behind leftist priorities over and over and over again. The Soroses in particular played a significant role when it came to the Virginia, redistricting fight. They've played a significant role across the country in giving money to all these prosecutors who share the ideology that AOC has. I look forward to the idea that one of the tenets of the AOC adjacent agenda is that they're going to be rejecting any kind of support for their agenda from billionaires.
But the progressives are winning. I mean, they're winning primaries, they're on the ballots, they're trying to get rid of these moderates that have been around forever in this party.
Well, it has energy in that area of the party, and I don't think we should underestimate if they have a good messenger who is lefty populist, that can resonate with people. But I would ask her also, can Rihanna be a billionaire who earned her money? Or Kylie,
great
or
question.
Beyonce.
I should have asked that question at the Met Gala.
Might have a different answer. And every person who is a socialist doesn't understand that you can create new money, right? They're always assuming it's coming from someone else, but in fact, she's probably ordered stuff from Jeff Bezos like in the last 2 weeks because he created a service that is helpful to people.
I do find it interesting, I remember when we were still waiting for this autopsy report to come out from the Democrats, and I don't think it still has. Would it be nice to go back and just take a look at what went wrong in 2024 and try not to repeat the mistakes of the past, which they feel like they are repeating?
Well, it does, but I also would point out that one of the reasons that those progressives are having success, particularly people like Graham Plattner in Maine, people who are adjacent to AOC and so many other areas, it's because of the fact that the Democratic coalition is now rejecting the top-down elite leadership that decided to essentially anoint Kamala Harris as the only option in 2024, someone who had to be the nominee just by dint of her position, not allowing for any competition or anything of the like that could have either made her a better candidate or chosen a better candidate. And now I think because of that, they've lost all their authority to dictate anything, and these ascendant younger progressives, they feel like the wind is at their back and that a plurality, if not even a majority of their party is with them.
MK, you're always right about everything.
Obviously.
So how do you think 2026 is going to go, the midterms?
Look, I think it's very challenging for Republicans. It's not as challenging as it could be, and perhaps because of redistricting will be less challenging, but it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But I say that Democrats, again, and they're the swinging left, they have to deal with the fact that they might not be infallible, and that's a problem that they're having. You need to see the autopsy report to figure out how you're fallible to change your message.
Everybody follow the oracles, MK and Ben, on X, and I will too, and to see what you guys are tweeting in the next couple of weeks. Great to have you on. Great to see you. Have a great weekend.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.